Who's on deck to start recording?
All right, okay, we'll start this shortly. We already gave it a
Not
start.
right now. Not right now. Yep.
We can give it a start.
All right.
Thanks everyone for coming. We have two lovely presenters today about Tableau Pulse and SuperTables. Tricia and Robert will be helping us with that today. This is our TUG leadership team. There are 6 of us, and then 4 of us here so far today. The agenda: we'll have a welcome. We have 4 people to choose from to vote on. Some general updates. We're going to go over Tableau Pulse. We're going to go over some SuperTables with Robert, and then upcoming events, prize winner, things like that. There'll be 3 winners today for attendees. One that is just in the meeting at all, and then 2 active in the chat and asking questions and overall interacting with the presentations. We'll cover this again later after the presentation today, but this reminder for the Viz This will be our presentation in October. Our Q4 meeting will be about a Wisconsin election turnout. Tammy will go into that more later after our presentations today. If you're interested, scan the QR code. We'll show it again later as well. If you have any questions for Tammy on what that entails, stay tuned. We'll take as many presenters as we can get. We're looking for people for Wisconsin to go over Wisconsin TUG. Polling. We're going to have a poll today. Make it a little easier to see. Feel free to scan that. We'll send it in the chat as well. First question is, what area from Wisconsin are you in? Link is in the chat if you need it. See most in the southeast, guessing Milwaukee area. Northeast, nice. Thank you. Going to the next question. What role do you play in the Tableau ecosystem? Personally, I do most of these things, so it's hard for the multiple roles. Thanks, everyone. Next question. Have you used metrics in Tableau before? The majority no. I would say I don't really use it that much either, that I probably could get more use out of it. What version of Tableau are you using? This would be for desktop. Thank you. Mostly in 2024, but yeah, I know some companies they take a while to update it, and I know Cloud is up to date already, so you have to use 2024. How often do you use tables in your dashboards? As much as Tableau is fun. I'm sure we all run into the problems of people want things in Excel. Or tables, the Excel version. Next question is about our first presentation today. Have you used Tableau Pulse yet? Looks like there's a lot of room to learn. I've dabbled with it, but I can't say I'm consistently using it for our clients yet. And then this is not a multi-select. You have to pick one. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Chocolate is the overwhelming winner. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll take that, use it for future. Our first speaker today is Tricia Hoveland. She is lead solution engineer for Tableau, supporting their enterprise manufacturing customers. She is a former Wisconsinite, now living in Minnesota, but still a Packers fan. So that's what's important. Thank you, Tricia, and excited to see you present today. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. All right. Let me share my screen here. Awesome. Okay. As Brady said, hello, Tricia Hoveland, and I am coming to you live today from just south of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I live in one of the burbs. But again, I'm originally from Tomah, Wisconsin area. I lived in Milwaukee for a little bit before I moved over to Minnesota. And I'm currently a lead solution engineer with Tableau. So that means I do kind of our technical pre-sales role with enterprise customers, and specifically around manufacturing and automotive. Those are kind of the different customers that I touch. I've been a solution engineer for about 3 years, did analytics consulting before that, which was really exciting for about 10 to 12 years. So I'm going to cover just a few slides today to get us all up to speed, and then I'm going to go into a demo. So feel free to come off of mute at any time to ask questions, put them in the chat, and I'm sure someone else can interrupt me if there's a question we should cover. But again, feel free to come off of mute at any time. So also as a teaser, I'm going to show you a brief Einstein Copilot for Tableau demo. So that's like a latest feature. It's still in beta, which I'll talk about a little bit, coming to GA in a few months. So without further ado, we can kind of jump into it here. All right, so I have to put in here, of course, our forward-looking statement from a Salesforce perspective. So I will be highlighting some of our new Pulse features today, a few of which have yet to be released. I'm not sure I'm going to cover anything too crazy, but please remember that our forward-looking statement applies to some of these features, and purchases should be made on what's available in GA today. Okay, so again, just kind of set the stage for us a little bit. Is basically this is talking about why are we going with Pulse? Why do we bring in Copilot for Tableau? All of these kind of AI features, right? So the landscape of analytics certainly has changed a lot. Specifically, Tableau has been around for about 20 years now, which seems really crazy to me. Business intelligence has really revolutionized the way we work with data. We've gone from having really messy and unmanageable spreadsheets to kind of these beautiful and interactive visualizations. Of course, that kind of Tableau and others have made popular. We went from really long reporting cycles to kind of self-service analytics. And now we're kind of moving into this, what we call personalization wave, right? That's where AI really comes into play. Also, data kind of being an afterthought. And now we're really looking at it as a strategic asset within our companies or companies that we support. So again, we're kind of really approaching this latest evolution in analytics. That's analytics for everyone, so that everyone and anyone can understand and act upon their data. Also, I would add to that, directly in the flow of their work, right? We're going to kind of talk about that and how Pulse plays a role there specifically. So many of you know that there's a ton of kind of recent of these macro developments that are accelerating the need to change how we work with data. Again, why Pulse was creative. So Gen AI has really grown expectations for smarter and more kind of conversational experience with kind of that natural language that comes about through that generative AI. Remote work really demands new ways of how we're sharing, collaborating, and presenting data. An explosion in the complexity of data has increased. So I work with a lot of customers, again, at the enterprise level that are bringing in, millions and billions of records off of manufacturing floors every day. And so we need a faster way to analyze that and get to what really matters, those metrics that we're going to talk about today that really can drive action. And kind of with all these changes, business really needs to change too. And Tableau is always here to help with that kind of critical movement in time, making sure that we're securing things long-term. We can allow organizations, the need to evolve, all these really great things that we want to provide. So again, to address these changes and the topic that we'll dive into today is Tableau Pulse. So Tableau Pulse really reimagines analytics to make it personalized, contextual, and intelligent. And it sounds like some of you are using Pulse today. Some of you aren't touching it at all. Obviously, it's on Tableau Cloud. So if you don't have access to Tableau Cloud today, that's where it lives. And if anyone has questions about that, I'm happy to answer that for you. But Tableau Pulse, Copilot, kind of all these AI things will be cloud first. We don't know for certain that they're going to be cloud only in the future. But again, just some things to think about. Tableau Pulse is on cloud today. So kind of rather than opening up, say, dashboards, visualizations, right, and taking the time to connect the dots, Pulse really allows you to receive these insight summaries right in the flow of your work. You can see here we're looking at Tableau Cloud specific and Tableau Mobile, which I'm happy to show you kind of what it looks like on mobile, but you get a very nice kind of view here. So that's right in the Tableau application. So you can keep tabs on your most important metrics and dig into the details that matter to you. Again, all seamlessly integrated into Tableau Cloud and our mobile app. So since we launched this product in late February, early March, right, you have to remember that we're pretty much still in like version 1 of this. We have about, I would say now, over 4,000 customers that are live with Pulse, potentially many of you, and being able to see these AI-powered insights in action. So we're kind of driving innovation faster than ever also within Tableau Pulse. So many of you are familiar with our release cycle. We kind of used to always do 4 times a year, and now we're under the Salesforce release. We do about 3 times a year. But with Pulse, we're now moved to this bi-weekly release cadence, which is super exciting for us, meaning that new features are coming out multiple times a month, right? So let's talk about what some of those features are. So these are some of our most recent releases, where we're doing this kind of ask ad hoc questions in Pulse, kind of that Q&A feature. I'll dive into that today. Another really exciting one that I'm going to dive into a little bit more too is this metric bootstrapping to quickly create metrics from existing dashboards. So when Pulse originally came out, for anyone that tested it in beta or anything like that, you could only connect to a live data source or a data source that was set up on a refresh schedule, right? That is needed to create Pulse, and I'll go through that in the demo a little bit. But now we can go and create metrics right off of dashboards, which is really nice. Secondly, we have kind of this visual explanation now included within the Pulse digest. I'll show you that. And then this feedback ranking, thumbs up or thumbs down, so we can fine tune kind of what you see. So you're providing feedback right back into Pulse, of course, to make it bigger, better, faster, stronger, I always say. Okay, so let's kind of talk about the capabilities within Pulse. So Pulse, is personalized. You can follow different metrics that you want. You can kind of see and get those different outcomes that really matter to you. You can have other people follow those metrics. So we're really kind of shifting this paradigm from a one-size-fits-all analytics to operationalizing around these personalized metrics. So instead of having to dig for information, now you can kind of guide these metrics and insights and immediately understand and act on them. Again, from like my perspective, and I'll show you this a little bit, is of course we use Tableau on Tableau, but we heavily use Pulse now, and I'm on the sales team. So kind of every morning, of course, I'm a millennial as well. So I pick up my phone, right? And I'm taking a look at TikToks and other things, but I take a look at my Tableau app and I get my metrics. And they tell me, what's happening in my pipeline every day, what ops do I need to go after, what accounts, what's happening, all that kind of stuff. So I use them. They really help guide kind of my day and my week. Today, I'm going to go through a manufacturing example where we're going to look at some scrap. Because again, I cover lots of manufacturing customers, so that's what's interesting to me. But again, with Pulse, you get this kind of personalized homepage, which is really nice. And we get that insight summary at the top, which I'll show you in the demo as well. All right, so Tableau Pulse is also this kind of contextual piece, right? It's helping customers like you infuse relative data into your flow of work. So it's proactive. It brings that data and insights to you where you need it. Again, I can see this in an email. I can see it on my Slack. It's coming to Teams soon, which we'll talk about. Of course, right in the mobile app. So across these applications, you can choose where you want to get your Pulse metrics, whether you want to just look at them inside of Tableau Cloud, or if you want them on your mobile phone every morning. So you can keep up with kind of what's going on, the latest and greatest, and of course, take action upon that. All right. Lastly here is that, of course, Tableau Pulse is smart. It's built off of this kind of generative AI models that we all know so much about now, and helping you identify and communicate insights with this AI. So Tableau Pulse really continues our very long history at Tableau of augmented capabilities by automating the analytics and the metrics to answer common business questions. And we kind of go above and beyond that, right? It's very conversational as well, which I'll show you. So Tableau Pulse's Insight platform does really that heavy lifting by automatically detecting hidden drivers, let's say trends, contributions, outliers, all that great stuff. And again, allowing you to proactively follow. You can be notified if there's unusual changes. Again, just like alerts inside of dashboards, right? When I only care if something is above or beyond a specific KPI, all that kind of stuff, still all doable within Pulse. So I wanted to highlight, and I just have a couple more slides, but my favorite features. So the ability to use existing workbooks and dashboards to populate metrics and creating new metrics within your already existing data to build them. That's the bootstrapping piece. And then this authoring piece where we can create a metric that doesn't exist within our data set. We can do that directly in the flow of creating a metric. So I'll show you that kind of during the demo as well. And again, I wanted to highlight back that at Tableau, and this is our marketing officer, we call her Emacs. Her name is Elizabeth. She uses Pulse herself, on a regular basis, which is kind of great. It just shows how truly the product is being built to take action upon. So, she might have questions from a marketing perspective, like how have our social impressions increased month over month? What is our pipeline coverage compared to last year, last quarter, last month, anything like that we can customize. And, how's our cost per acquisition trending from different campaigns that we've sent out, right? So that's a good marketing example specific for Emacs to take a look at every morning. All right, lastly, I'm gonna, again, coming back to showing you this in the demo, is that Pulse is really meant to be in the flow of your work, and we truly are working towards that from a development perspective, everything like that. So you can see here that we have brought Pulse into Slack. It's coming to Teams. I'm sure many of you are Microsoft Shop. We use Teams here at Salesforce Tableau because we own it, and so that's where it went first. Dashboards, emails, mobile, etc. Right? All right. Any questions before I dive in? I have some links here that I want to share with you guys too, so I'm just going to put these in the chat. It's kind of our main Pulse help page. So let me just open up the chat here. And again, feel free to ask questions.
I guess one thing that I personally am trying to learn with Tableau Pulse is how I want to introduce this to new users.
Yes.
So there's two different types. There's the people that are, they really want this ability to do things. And then there's the people that think anything above Excel is witchcraft, and trying to get Pulse just into their email as like a starting block, basically, for them.
Yes, change management can be really difficult, right? When we're talking about Pulse specific, it's hard enough to get our users and customers to pull away from, say, like putting a table on a dashboard, right? We were just talking about that. I still put tables in my dashboards, right? Because people want access to the underlying data. So where I see Pulse being really successful myself and with my customers and how we have these conversations is really that it's meant for leadership. I see leadership like really grabbing onto it. Now it does help me do my everyday job, but when they can kind of see and take action on something like super quickly and ask their own questions in natural language, that's really powerful for the non-analyst, right? And so we kind of just show it and again, put it in the flow of their work into email, like you said, right? I get it in on my mobile and in Slack. So yeah, I think it's just like can definitely take some time, but if they can see that they can take action on it, that it's really meaningful to them, that's where I think you hook, line, and sinker with Pulse.
Yeah, we do have one question from Tommy. Will there be any updates to give a user the ability to change when the Tableau digest is released?
Ask that one more time. Oh, here, I can see. Okay. Will there be any updates to give a user the ability to change when the Tableau digest? What's the Tableau digest? Is that the insight summary?
Yeah, and I think that's customizable, right?
So it's really not. No,
Okay.
let's dive into that right now. So you can kind of see here for those that have never seen Pulse, I'm on Tableau Cloud, Tableau Cloud demonstration site right here. It lives on the left-hand side. So we're giving feedback to our development team. We're getting a lot of feedback from customers about maybe putting these Pulse metrics specifically back into like projects. So here we have projects, right? That's what these look like. Currently lives kind of on its own island here on the left-hand side. And when I open it up, I get a few things. One, I get kind of my general AI warning at the top, just saying, make sure you review these things for accuracy and safety, all that kind of good stuff. Same warning that you get with ChatGPT, right? So I can say, got it. Now, something that you can turn on and turn off for your users is this insight summary at the top, what we call. And I have no control over this. The only control I have is this helpful or is it not? And when I hover over this kind of information button, it tells me that this is updating every 24 hours. And so this summary might not reflect the current metric status. So a few things, right? This I think will change and will be customizable to like your own language, meaning like the language that you use as a company, all this kind of stuff. But the insight summary does heavily rely on you having really nice metric names. So I understand that I'm looking at my total produced value, my total scrap cost is up, et cetera, et cetera. So this might be really great. I can give it the thumbs up and I can give feedback. And again, this goes directly back to our dev teams. So if you're on Tableau Pulse, if you're demoing it or on the beta program or you're live with it today, feel free to utilize this, right? It really helps in this product because it's so new to us. So here, again, I can say when I'm coming into this, I take a look at this insight summary. It's how I start. And I say like, okay, my total scrap is up compared to last month. The scrap rate remains steady. Okay, that's great. My produce value this month is running at way lower than I care to see it. So I might want to dive into some of these metrics, right? So let's say I'm like the head of the manufacturing floor and I'm really in charge of scrap. So I'm going to take a look at my total scrap costs because I don't love these numbers that I'm seeing here, right? That's kind of the whole point of Pulse is to say really quickly, what's up, what's down, and why. So I'm taking a look at this and I can do a lot of things here. Again, I get more of this kind of generative. I did not write any of this. Tableau did it for me. And it's telling me that prior period, so month over month, I'm up, and versus prior year, I'm way up. So this is not great. This is bad information. I need to dive into this a little bit more. I can do a few things. When I come up and click adjust, there are some fields in my data set that I could go ahead and dive into. Let's say I only care about my work center, which is packaging. I could go ahead and take a look at just packaging. And let's just do that for the sake of doing it. So once I click that check mark, now I'm just taking a look at packaging and I can say, okay, I'm not having the same issue, right? Like year over year doesn't look good, but prior period looks great. Again, I can come back in and adjust all of this. I can also change my date that I want to start with. So here I'm looking at month to date. Maybe I care more about quarter to date, something like that. So I have some control in what I'm doing here. When I scroll down, I get this breakdown, which is kind of nice. And again, Tableau and Pulse are smart. So they might say like, hey, when I looked at this before, I broke it down by plant. And so it's going to start off by breaking it down that way. Maybe I, again, care about something like scrap reason, which I do. Looks like defective lining and wrong orientation are causing me a lot of headache here. So I might need to go talk to my teams about that. Now, here's where things get really cool within Pulse is it provides me some generative questions. So I might want to say, again, which scrap reason had a very high total cost? So I'm going to get that same information. I'm basically asking the same question with that, but my defective lining and my wrong orientation causing these issues. But I can also use my own natural language to ask a question, such as like, which plant decreased the most? Tableau is going to say, is this what you mean? And I'll say, yep. And it'll tell me, okay, here's my plants that are having the largest problem. Tableau will also just build this for me. So you can see that all questions that I ask, whether I've asked them or they were generated for me, Tableau's just kind of building them. So I can keep them all in the view here. I can see my defective lining, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of nice. I'll go back to my overview. If I want something really quick, again, I can just kind of take a look at, it's telling me that the trend for total scrap has changed 4 days ago and it's increasing, but now it's at a slower rate. So that's great news for me and my teams. I'm going to scroll to the very bottom here. You can see, again, it kept all those questions that I had asked for me. Now, something I can do here is I can add followers to this specific metric. Tableau Pulse will honor any kind of security that you have, row level security, any kind of data governance. If you don't have access to this data, then I can't add you to it anyways. So if all these people right here, they're already following this metric, I could search for someone within the environment and I could add them. And these are all people that have access to it. If they don't have access, I can't see them, I can't add them. So I can add followers myself. One other thing to note is my preferences. So I can see that this is also going to change in the future, but this is what it looks like today. So something was turned off. My admins do have control over some of these metrics and what I can and can't do. So I can email myself metrics on a daily basis. There's no option for me to like choose a specific time. So that is coming where I'll be able to say like, hey, I want these at 7 a.m. Central. All that kind of stuff. So this is what it looks like today. It will be changing, but that's what that looks like. And then if I come into Slack, I'm just going to show you on my Slack channel here. Let's look at activity. I'm just going to scroll through and find what it looks like in Slack. Again, I can see this being very similar within Teams, but this is just a metric that I followed at one point. I get a message or sent to me, I think maybe every week, and it just is giving me a quick synopsis. I can go ahead and jump into attach rate and it'll take me directly into the actual metric on Tableau Cloud. Got any questions?
We do have one about documentation on security from Olivia.
Yep. Yeah, so we have plenty of documentation around. Now these models, right, they're not models that I train. I just create the metrics, which I'll show you how to do in just a second. But we have plenty of documentation around the security, how these models do come to be. Their basis is ChatGPT, all that kind of good stuff. Of course, trust is our #1 value at Salesforce and Tableau. And so your data is your data. It stays within the cloud. We're not taking it out, pulling it in to anything else, all that good stuff. So we have documentation that maybe when the next presenter is up, I'll find a link that I can put in the chat for you. That sounds good.
Yep, thank you. And I think you're about to go over Harriet's question.
Yeah.
How to write the prompts, right?
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to open up just another site here that has the data set that I want on it. All right. Let's log in with my MFA quick. All right, so I'm going to go into, again, Tableau Pulse. In here, I have no metrics because that I'm following. So this is what kind of a blank canvas looks like. We can see other metrics that people have created. Those are listed here. I'm not following any. So if I want to create something new, I'm going to go to this new metric definition. These are all of the data sources that I have access to in my environment. So for this one, I'm going to use specifically a demo that I provided to Honda. Again, I support many of our manufacturing customers. So we're going to look at some warranty information. So this is now the interface for how I'm going to create the metric, and it can happen very, very quickly. So I'm going to look at something like claim amount, and I can call this just Tricia test. Now this says, can anyone edit this? And I can restrict that someone can, no one can. So I can kind of share this metric with a teammate if I wanted to. So we'll just leave it at that for now. Next, and again, this is just prompting me to kind of go down the chain here, is the measure that I want to take a look at. Now, I don't have a ton of fields here, but we are going to focus on claim amount. I think that's what I want to take a look at. So once I select the measure, Tableau is going to ask for the aggregation, and if I want to see a running total or cumulative. So claim amount, I'm going to look at the sum. I think that'll work. We could always come back and change it on the fly. Again, running total or non-cumulative, I'm going to stick with a running total. Now, something that's really important in your data set that you have to have, besides a metric, is a time definition. So you need to have a date field, right? Pulse needs to be able to create off of some kind of date. So I'm going to go with new date. I know this data. I know I need to use new date. But if I didn't know and I just selected date, again, I knew that there'd be nothing there for us to look at, but then you could just, again, play around with your data sets. So Tableau already started to kind of create the metric for me, and I'm going to start building it out just a little bit more.
One of the questions we have is, can the fiscal year be customized, or is it just January through December?
Yep, good question. So fiscal year is definitely coming as a native option. We have a way around it right now, which is kind of creating an advanced definition. So Brady, I think you and I talked about this when we were chatting, is what happens if I want to create my metric off of a calculation that doesn't exist in my data set right now, is we can come into this advanced analytics editor, and I could create my own calculated field from here if I wanted to. So you'll notice this interface looks very similar to Tableau Desktop, right? But we are not going to use it in that way. We're just going to use it to create a calculation. So if I create a calculated field here, just call it, again, I'm just going to call it test. I could do something like index, right? I'm not really creating anything magical here, but I could hit apply, okay. And now this is going to live within this metric, and I could use it instead of using, yeah, it's not going to like what I did. But if I had a valid calculation that made sense, I could use that as my measure value, and it would live in here. So you can create measures on the fly, which is kind of really nice. And then, yeah, I can see here that very quickly, and this compared to, or this date dimension field, it's going to look where we can select a fiscal year option instead of a calendar year. So that's coming. It's not in GA yet. A good question. So here's, I can do a little customization. Now these are all optional. So I can adjust this metric filter. So I can kind of suggest to the metric that I really care about looking at this by my dealer name. You'll notice that popped up here. So I can have my users automatically have that filter, and I can add more. So if I care about something like region and vehicle make, this automatically happens. This is great. Lastly, I can choose my number format. So if I was looking at something like currency, which I am, I'm going to switch over to currency, everything adjusts, and I'm going to save this. So this says, complete the required field and the Insight tab before you save. I must have missed a step. Oh yeah, here we go, Insight tab. So this is also something that's newer for Pulse. And so it's saying record identifier. Select a field that has a unique value for every record or row. So for me, that would be dealer ID. So now I'm
And
thinking, yeah, go
at
ahead.
the top, you want to change this to when a claim amount be that's bad, with the top of the insights.
Yeah, tell me what it's neutral. Yeah, so we can choose unfavorable, which is nice. So that helps with our trend and with our what comes up in our insight summary and definitions, right? So here we get this kind of option to identify a name if I want to add that in. And again, if you hover over, you get the definition for kind of all these things. These are all really new, which is nice. So you can say if it's singular or plural, the trend, again, if you want it to be up or down, detractors, all that kind of stuff. So you can do some customizing here, which is nice. Well, let's see if I can get away with just, oh, I gotta keep going, it looks like. Oh, I gotta change the name in the definition tab. So let's call it claim amount $. Now it's telling me that it already exists, which I thought I deleted it before, but you get the idea of how to build it, right? And then this would ideally go back to metrics, which let's see if claim amount is in here. Oh yeah, here it lives. So I can go and follow this now if I want to. Let's just take a look at it. I'm going to follow. Then if I go back, it lives here now. The insight summary won't populate for another 24 hours. And again, I'm only looking at one metric. I probably want to build this out to have a better insight summary. But yeah, that's as easy as it is to create a metric. And you have to play around with it, just kind of like what I was doing. Again, we're bringing out new features twice a month. So I was even seeing some new stuff in here. Yeah, any other questions? I can go into the chat here too.
We got some in the Q&A. Can you change the type of charts that are made?
Nope, those you cannot. So you get the bar chart or the spark chart right off the bat, the trend lines. Today, those are not customizable.
Pulse is only available for cloud right now, correct? And we don't have any timeline for anything else.
That is correct.
Do you write prompts for insights, or is it just selecting things that they just went through right there?
Yep, it selects the things that it thinks that you need to know. Biggest movers, basically. Yeah, users like to see year-to-date and month-to-date on the same page, not toggle between. Yeah, that functionality does not exist. So you can't look at two different time periods and kind of split the page. But that's definitely a good feedback, I think, that I'd like to take to our development team. That would be interesting, something I never thought about. Will there be any updates to give a user the ability to change when the Tableau Digest is released? Yeah, so that 24-hour time frame is hard right now, but I can see in the future, and I can't recall if it's on the roadmap or not, but it would be nice to be able to select if that changes, once, twice a day, something like that.
User access, can a viewer use Tableau Pulse?
Yep, accessible to all license types. Good question. All right, do I have time to show Copilot, or should we wrap up?
I think we have time.
Cool. So I don't know how many of you have heard of, okay, here's one frustrating thing too that I talk to our teams about all the time is when you're in Pulse, there's no home button for me to get back to like my Tableau homepage. So if I have to use just the back button, it's very, very annoying. So let me just open up. Let's see if we can take me back to my homepage. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Again, just hopping in here. So we'll kind of fast track this a little bit, but I have an accelerator here. Hopefully most of you are familiar with Tableau accelerators. If you are not, I can put a link in the chat for you, but these are pre-built Tableau dashboards, right? So most of them look very familiar. These are built out by Salesforce, have a very Salesforce kind of look and feel to them. So again, I want to take a look at, let's say, my top scrap reason dashboard. And I'm going to come up to do my web edit. Again, this is in Tableau Cloud. This is in beta, should be GA very soon. So probably most of you have not seen what this looks like, but I'm going to open up this Einstein Copilot, just this page here. And actually, let's open up just a brand new page. You'll see in the top right-hand corner, we have this little Einstein looking guy. This is Einstein Copilot for Tableau. So he's kind of telling us that he's our AI assistant and we can ask questions of. So I'm going to say, okay, got it. Now what's going to happen is he's going to allow some suggested questions of this data set, right? So again, I'm looking at this manufacturing example of scrap. And so he's saying, again, most of you are probably familiar with Copilots, right? Microsoft Copilot, very similar type product. So we're building Copilot into, here you can see Tableau Cloud, into desktop, into Prep Builder, which is excellent because I had a regex expression I needed to write the other day that normally would take me like a half hour. And it took Copilot 5 seconds to create the calculation for me and also to create a visual for me. So really nice stuff. So this is just a couple of suggested questions. And I can say, is this helpful? Is this not? But let's say I want to ask my own question, right? So I might ask Einstein to show me something. And again, I have a pre-built question here, but we could start playing around. But I'm going to say, show me my total scrap cost by plant and work center. And I've learned that when I put the fields in quotes, Copilot does quite a bit better. Now, this takes about today like 15 seconds, I would say, for Copilot to kind of come back with something. And it, of course, depends on the complexity of the question that you ask. So 2 things just happened. Copilot brought me back a viz, a bar chart, basic bar chart, and I can see here that my plant 2 subassembly work center looks to be having the highest total scrap cost in general. And Copilot's also providing me how it got here, right? So it said, I created this bar chart showing you the total scrap cost by plant broken down by work center. This viz helps understand the total scrap and distributed across different plants and work centers. So that's kind of nice that it's telling me what it actually did. Now, of course, when I start asking questions, I have follow-up questions, right? Nobody just has one question that they want to ask. So something I can also ask Einstein to do is drill down and give me further information. So I'll show you this question. It says, please drill into plant 2 and the subassembly by work center and show me that scrap reason by the highest total scrap costs. So again, these are some basic questions. I'm not asking to create calculations, although I could. So again, we get the visual. It's showing me that my defective lining, which we saw in my earlier example, and these vibration marks and poor tool quality, those are my top 3 highest total scrap cost by these particular sub-assemblies. And I could start playing around with this right here. If I was like, okay, I don't actually want to see plant 2, I want to see plant 3. That changes up the data a bit, right? Now we see wrong orientation. So this is very basic, and I only wanted to just briefly show it to you, but Copilot is coming soon to GA. We don't know exactly what that looks like. It's in beta now. We have about 1,000 customers that are in beta. So yeah, that's Copilot for you. All right. I can look at some.
Yeah, a few more questions.
Chat, yeah, I can wrap it up.
Is Einstein available to all desktop users, or is something extra within your contract?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. If it will come just like Pulse did, kind of, if you have Tableau Cloud, you get access to it. That could be the case. It might have to be, you have to be on the enterprise SKU or something like that. So I do not know what that looks like. But it said, like I said, I'm hoping it comes out soon. It's in beta now, and I'm sure we'll hear more as soon as it comes out to GA. Good question.
I think that's it. Unless I missed one. One more from Emma.
Yeah.
To what extent is Einstein able to change formatting across the workbook? Is this planned for the future?
Yes, so things like that are planned for the future, right? To go above and beyond just like asking these questions to create calculations, anything like that. But hey, Copilot, can you go into my workbook and update the color palette? Something like that. I hope stuff like that is coming. We're in version 1 right now. I think 2 and 3, it will happen. So we'll see. Yeah, and voice-enabled features. Again, we're only Copilot. I mean, besides like me actually speaking to Copilot, is we're also only in English. That's going to also change, right? We're going to bring in all the languages that we have inside of desktop today. Those things will take time, but they're coming. Good questions.
Thank you, Tricia.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
You bet, you bet.
Our next presenter, let me show my initial screen, is Robert. He is going to show SuperTables. Robert, would you like to go? Ready to go?
Yeah. Good afternoon now. Robert Salas of the Wisconsin TUG leadership team. Just a little background on me, because I didn't give Brady about to put in there. I've been in consulting for 20 plus years, the last 13 freelance, the 10 before that with a large firm. And with my main clients, I'm not only a lead Tableau developer, but also a site admin for them. So kind of blending both development side and some of the administrative stuff. I've been with the Wisconsin TUG and also the Madison TUG for about 2 years now. And in addition to doing consulting, very recent news, professionally, I'm shifting into higher education. So kind of a evolving thing, largely through Tableau and Tableau user groups. So you never know where involvement will take you. I'm going to talk about SuperTables, which is an extension to Tableau. And I'm going to stop my video so I can switch and share my screen more easily. And here we go. Oh, the infinite share. I'm hoping that solved the problem for infinite share.
Yep, you're good now.
Great, thanks. Okay, so SuperTables is an extension for Tableau. Like many of the extensions out there, you add them through the Tableau Exchange. It used to be called the Extensions Gallery. In this particular case, SuperTables is not a free extension, so that's a little bit important to know. For one of the clients that I work with, the cost of it actually was not really that much of a dissuasion. It brings a lot of powerful features to things, so it's worth thinking about. And I'm in particular echo back what Brady said at the very beginning, which is anything above Excel is witchcraft. Everybody wants their data, they want to use it in Excel, et cetera, et cetera. So this is very relevant for this discussion today. What is SuperTables, right? Let's talk first about what the current state is of most organizations. Just like we've said a few times here, most users want to download their data and then do their analysis in Excel. It's a tool that they're used to using. It's familiar. They feel very empowered and able to write calculations of formulas and create their own pivot tables and kind of do their own analysis in ways that they're used to. In order to facilitate that, I know that many of us on here have created data tables in Tableau in order to facilitate letting them export the data and then use it into Excel. When we do that, though, the data tables we create are sort of fixed. And I'm going to demo all of this a little bit after the presentation here. So these sort of static fixed structure data tables that we create, users have to download the whole thing. We can facilitate exporting data from Tableau in 2 ways right now. There's the built-in download functionality where you can download a cross-tab. Or for quite a few years, myself and others I know on here have used an extension called Export All. It's been around for quite a long time. And it's free, but it also relies on a very static data table construction. And it downloads all the data. And so you can really only control it based on what you filter, not in how it's structured or what columns you choose. So as a developer, you always have to pre-build a data table that's going to be universally universally appeal to everyone who might use it and have all the columns that somebody might potentially use. You're basically making a giant grocery store of data columns that everyone will get, even if they only need 2 or 3. And so, it's just a lot of extra data in there. And there's really no way to manipulate the analysis of the data in Tableau, right? Other than applying filters, you really just can't do anything else with it. So the use case for SuperTables is giving more user control in terms of the ability to create data extracts from Tableau data sources and keeping them inside Tableau itself, using Excel-like functionality, but keeping them inside the application, rather than letting your data escape the secure platform and be saved locally and then potentially either get stale or be compromised. So keeping them inside Tableau is one of the key features, I think. In the construct I just described, we create a great big gigantic static data superstore data here. And this is what somebody would download. They would get all of it every time unless they filtered for a specific thing, for example, region. But they would always get all the columns, even if all they really wanted was a product category and sales for that. They would still get it all. So SuperTables, what does it do? It allows users to modify the data structure of the table itself on the fly. They can choose what columns they want to keep or get rid of. They can actually rearrange them. They can reorder it and resort it. It brings Excel-like functionality into the Tableau dashboard workspace. And by Excel-like functionality, I mean auto-filtering, I mean formula writing, I mean recoding and manipulation of the data, creating pivot tables, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of just a very simple way of using this as a tool to extract data and save it locally in a more streamlined fashion, you can hide or enable columns that they want to include. Now, they can't choose everything. This isn't like building your own data table from scratch using Tableau Desktop. The developer would create a predefined set of columns, a sort of master data table, if you will. And then the user can choose whether they include or exclude any given column from that particular structure. So you can still control the data and keep PII and other sensitive information from being exposed out there or from being an option, but they don't have to download every column. They don't have to look at everything on there. And so they can tailor their own desired data extract files without risking the compromising data security or exposing information that you don't want out there. Makes it kind of an ad hoc Excel creation tool. I hate to call it that, and again, it hurts my soul to talk about something that's about taking data out of Tableau into Excel, but this is the use case, and a lot of companies like it. So this is a very high-level view of what SuperTables looks like when you've built something. The sort of top half screenshot shows the columns that I've brought in, mostly the dimensional columns, and the bottom half screenshot are the measures. I've simply scrolled over to the right here to take these two screenshots. So it looks very similar to what you create in Tableau in its native data table form. But you can see there are some column headings, there are filter controls, and there are these data entry areas which allow for string matching. So you can search for things or create formulas. The real power in SuperTables is this sidebar over here where it says columns, filters, and formulas. And it does exactly what it says. Opening up columns gives you this view that you see on the far right, where you can check or uncheck columns that you want to include within your view. So if I don't want to see category or customer or subcategory, I can just uncheck those and they will disappear from my view. The little maroon colored grid here is a handle. This allows you to rearrange the columns. So if you want to push sales all the way up to the top and have it next to category, you can rearrange however you like. So again, putting the power into the hands of the users to create a spreadsheet-like view that they want in the way that they want it. Once they've got it sort of fine-tuned in the way that they like, they can actually export it as is. So this gives them the chance to control what they have in their spreadsheet view and how it's arranged. So again, kind of an ad hoc reporting tool. You can also, when you remove columns, SuperTables reaggregates the data, the measures, based on what's left over. So if I take out some of these dimensional elements on the right, it's going to reaggregate my measures based on the remaining dimensions. As I continue to deselect dimensions, it continues to reaggregate. So this is nice because you're basically working in a sort of pivot table-like format. Or, to keep it in the Tableau parlance, you're creating a worksheet from scratch where you're only including the dimensions that you want, and the measures aggregate to that level of detail. You can also drag a given dimension up into this upper area, or from the columns, you can use it to pivot it. And it basically creates a pivot table on the fly, still within Tableau. And you can see how that looks down below. I've summarized by customer name, and it's collapsed it down with an expando, showing me the aggregation of the measure for that customer. But if I open the expando, I see the remaining dimensions that I've left in there, consumer, category, and subcategory. And then the aggregation of those measures to that level of detail and a subtotal. So this appears all on the screen. Again, hopefully convincing users you don't need to export your data to create pivot tables. Just do it in Tableau and be done with your business. Whatever you wind up with, exporting to Excel is sort of the point of this talk. And it's as simple as clicking this little button down in the bottom right. Now, this is something that has to be enabled in the configuration of SuperTables, but it's just one checkbox and takes about a second to enable it. You can also export to a CSV file or a PDF. I only have Excel enabled because who would want a CSV? There's no need for any additional object or icon on the dashboard. So you don't need to bring in a download icon. You don't have to create a parameter or some other sort of functionality in order to export your data from here. It's contained within the SuperTables extension, that whatever you've put on screen within your SuperTables view is what it will export. Now, it will export at the aggregation level, and it's WYSIWYG. So if I create a pivot table like I did on the previous screen and I export it, it's going to look like the top left. It is not going to look like the bottom right, excuse me, where I've expanded my features. And if you do choose everything, if you choose all the columns and all the rows, it will bring them all down. It will download them all. But fundamentally, when you download it, it's going to bring the rows and columns that are selected for inclusion. So if I've checked all of them, I'll get all of them. If I've only checked 3 or 4 plus a measure, that's all I'll get. It lets you tailor what you get. I'm going to demo here in just a few minutes. But I just want to point out here, there's a couple links in here, the SuperTables product page, and then there's a YouTube video with Tableau Tim talking about SuperTables with one of the developers at InfoTopics. Okay, let me flip over here. So Tableau Desktop. I've opened it up. I'm in Superstore Data. I'm just going to create a really super quick view. Drag some junk in here. And some measures. Now, the one thing that's important to know here is that in order for SuperTables to work correctly for its view rendering, is that the measures have to be discrete. I don't know why I'm experiencing so much lag here. So I've brought my measures up onto the rows shelf, but I can't leave them as green pills. I have to convert them into discrete. So we just select them all and change them to discrete. Great, done. I've built the data table. I've got my 5, 6 dimensions here. I've got my 3 measures. That's really all I need to do now for this demo. I'm going to go to a dashboard tab. I'm going to use the super secret trick of bringing my sheet in and basically hiding it at pixel number 1, because you do need to have the sheet present within your dashboard in order for this to work. And the reason for that is if you have any filters. So I've brought that in and I have tucked it into the corner out of sight. And then I bring in the SuperTables extension. I'm going to let it occupy the whole space. And I do have this saved locally. You can use the free version, but I actually have it locally. Okay, so the first thing it's going to do is prompt me to configure SuperTables based on whatever views I've brought in. I'm not going to go through all the different options on here because that could take a whole hour by itself. But basically, you would choose the data sheet that you want SuperTables to be pointed at. It will then show you the various and sundry dimensions that you have in there. You can choose a lot of options in here to reconfigure how you want it to behave. For example, I can use customer to be my default sort if I want to sort by customer name as default. I can choose a different background color and so on and so forth. So where this is most handy is in showing dates. You can reconfigure how the date is displayed. My measures are automatically shown on here, and they will generally behave the same way that they're set up in Tableau. So as far as exporting, one of the things you have to do here is to show that button for export, and I'm going to show the export to Excel button. Again, I'm going to skip over all the other configuration stuff. Apply, and now it's going to basically read the data table I created and re-render it in the SuperTables extension. And so you can see now I have the same columns. And now we're going to play with the fun part, which is rearranging things. So index is an auto-generated field that just tells you how many rows you have. Basically, it's a row number. Disable that. I'm going to move subcategory up here under category. Let's say for my purposes, I'm not really interested in product name level of detail or even the customer. I want to look at things by manufacturer. So I've just changed my data table structure to be what I'm interested in. I can make it wider, I can rearrange. And let's say I want to see the aggregation of this by manufacturer. So I just drag that up into the top, where it's going to essentially pivot table my results by manufacturer. And again, everything has reaggregated on the right. If I want to expand this and look more closely at Souter, I can do so. And maybe I want to actually look at this at a further level of detail and create a pivot table by manufacturer and category. So now if I expand it, I've got a nested pivot table inside of there. And this is the functionality that, again, I hope makes users want to stay inside of Tableau and just do their analysis here and see, this is what I got, this is what I need, et cetera, et cetera. Since the whole point of this was to talk about exporting to Excel, I'm going to remove this pivot table structure and go back to my basic data set. I'm going to bring customer back in, and that's all I need to do. I want to export this data and look at it in Excel, because anything above Excel is witchcraft. I love that phrase. I click the icon, and a second later, let me save this somewhere. I will have that downloaded, and I can go ahead and open that up. I'm not going to open Excel. We don't need to see it in Excel. But what it downloads is all the columns that I have shown on here as they are in this order to the level of detail that I have. That's SuperTables. Using a few of the other features in here, you can apply filters directly using SuperTables rather than the built-in Tableau filters. And this allows a little bit more nuance. So if I wanted to search a category just looking for the word supplies, I can do so. Oops. And this is most relevant if you're looking, for example, like a customer name. Let me do something like that. I'm looking for a customer's name, Aaron. That's what I'll get. Again, this is what people are used to in Excel, is using autofilters of some sort to get at the data that they want. Formulas is really powerful because you can create, oh, it only does it on cloud. Yep, I should. Or on the server, excuse me. You can write formulas to conduct calculations within this structure. So if I wanted to, for example, be able to reaggregate and then recalculate my percentages, I can do so through a formula in here. If I want to have if then else conditions that I would use in Excel, I can do that in here rather than asking a developer or somebody on the data engineering team to write me a calculated field that does some sort of if then calculation. As a self-serve user, I can write my own if then calculation using Excel syntax. All right, I'm going to pause there and see if you guys have any questions. And I'll remain in Tableau Desktop here to try to answer them and demonstrate them. So somebody will have to tell me the questions.
Only question I'm seeing for you, Robert, is what is the name of the source where you purchase the SuperTables from?
Sure. Actually, that'll go back to here. The company is called InfoTopics. And the last tab here with resources has a link to their product page after that. So infotopics.com.
You want to post that in the chat? And then is this only available on desktop? Can it be done on server?
It can be done on server, yeah. And so what the setup for this is you purchase a license through InfoTopics, and then you basically get a encrypted token key that you're going to put into your server, what do they call that? The extension setup. You add the extension and then you enter the encrypted token key. And so that gives your server or cloud instance the ability to use all of the functions of SuperTables in your published workbooks. Very nice company to work with. We actually needed to get some information with a client of mine and had a conference call with them in Holland. Very interesting, well-spoken, lots of information. I cannot give you a price on SuperTables. It would depend on your organization size and configuration and so on and so forth. So you have to work with their sales team, not my place to give you.
How does the performance work for, has it slowed down your dashboards overall, still relatively the same?
You know, I'm surprised at how quick it does work. I mean, if we all come in with Amazon expectations, right, where they have 3 warehouses full of blade servers and everything's instantaneous, like, sure, you're going to be disappointed. But with one of my clients, we're looking at, I don't know, 300,000 or 400,000 rows, and it takes probably about 5 seconds to initially load that all in SuperTables. And then as you move things in and out, it takes 1 or 2 seconds to re-render, maybe, 1 full second to re-render it. It's pretty fast. It is relying first on Tableau's data table structure, and then it's re-rendering the display of that underlying data table. So there is some processing that happens. It takes a second or two. with a large data set size. Again, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of rows. You're looking at 1 to 2 seconds to do some of the more convoluted things in there. In my opinion and experience, a very tolerable response given what you're trying to do in there.
Then last question I think I see is, did you say for the formulas use Excel commands?
Very, very similar to the syntax. Some of it is identical, some of it's a little bit different. It just depends on the particular function that you're trying to accomplish. So if you're doing something like, the left 3 characters of a string, it's exactly the same. If you're trying to do some sort of complicated Excel array formula, I don't think it's capable of doing the array formulas, but most of them are very, very similar, if not exactly the same. I couldn't give you a complete breakdown of which ones are the same or not. But in all the ones that I've used, they're almost identical to the Excel format. So if you're good at programming Excel, or programming is a loose word, if you're good at putting together Excel functions, it's extremely easy to translate that into SuperTables, almost identical.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Next up, we have Tammy, who's going to go through the Viz this for our Wisconsin data.
Yep. I didn't get to do tech check before we started. Brady, can you indicate if you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So we are doing a fun thing for our October TUG that requires some people to sign up to do a Viz This participation. And I apologize for noise in the background if there is any. I'm at a coffee shop right now. But what we'll do is we will provide you with a data set of Wisconsin voter turnout. So it's a totally nonpartisan thing. So no politics involved in that regard, but it's just a data set of Wisconsin voter turnout. You'll build a Viz, and then you'll present it during our Viz This segment during our October TUG meeting. Participants' Vizes will be voted on by the meeting attendees, and the most popular Viz will win Tableau swag. Next slide. So there will be 6 data sets to use. Basically, there will be 3 data sets that pertain to the 2020 election, which was a presidential election, and 3 data sets that pertain to the 2022 midterm elections from those November elections. There's a few idiosyncrasies with the data, but that will be explained to the participants when the data is shared. And then we just have a few ground rules. Next slide. So your mission is to use the provided data to build a Viz of your choice, Iron Viz style. So if you've been to Tableau Conference, you've seen the Iron Viz competition. You won't be building the Viz during our segment in October, but you'll be kind of explaining how you did it and what your thought process was, and so on and so forth. The only requirement is that your Viz tells a story about voter turnout in Wisconsin for the November elections in 2020 and 2022, and prepare a show and tell of your Viz for the October Wisconsin TUG meeting. The amount of time that you have to present your Viz will depend upon how many people sign up to participate. So I believe on the next slide, we have, People's Choice Award voted on by the meeting attendees will win Tableau swag. I think on the next slide, we have the QR code to submit your name and email address. So this QR code goes to a quick survey. It's just a 2-question survey. What is your name? What is your email address? So we will collect those. We've had this open since our meeting in April, and we have 4 people signed up so far. If your name is Nick Cleveland and you are on this call, on this TUG meeting, please redo your sign up because we didn't capture your email address last time. By 5 o'clock today, 5 p.m. Central Time today, just click on that QR code and indicate that you're interested. And then tomorrow or the next day, probably Thursday, I'll reach out to everybody from our Wisconsin TUG email address, which is a Gmail account. So if you sign up and you don't see anything by Friday, check your spam because it will come from a Gmail account with more details and to confirm everybody's participation and let you know how much time you'll have to present your viz. So hopefully the 4 people that have already signed up are still going to be on board, and we have space to accept more. So if you're interested, please let us know. We're really looking forward to this competition, if you will, in October. And that's it.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yep.
Yep, looking forward to that. Very excited to see how everyone does. Other upcoming events. Next Milwaukee Tug is scheduled for August 14th. As of now, the Madison is tentatively scheduled for September 19th. Both of those are in person. And then our next Wisconsin Tug is October 15th. That will be virtual. Other events, we have this week, Building an AI Policy Hackathon. There is a data meetup in Milwaukee next week, and as well as an analytics after dark. And then August 2nd is Data Book Club. Last chance for the Viz This. Let me know if anyone else needs help with that QR code. Wisconsin Tug Prize giveaway. Robert, I believe you were in charge of that today.
And I've utterly failed on it since I was in the midst of presenting for it. My apologies. I'll give you a few minutes.
Well, we can reach out afterwards. Hold on. 1 second. Give that Robert a minute, and then once we have that, that'll be everything for today. So appreciate everyone's time. We'll get the 3 prize winners here shortly, and then that'll be all for today.
I'm going to inject real quick. I took care of it. Again, I was just trying to get myself organized after presenting. So the 3 winners, random number generators from our list of attendees: Lori C., Aaron Byrne, and Tommy Hewelhorst. I hope I said that correctly. If you guys could send me a message, a DM, right on the bottom bar of the screen, there's a DMs icon with a little smiley face. So send me a DM with your email address, and we will reach out to you and get you our Tableau store gift card. Again, that's Lori C., Aaron Byrne, and Tommy Hewelhorst.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
And I'll stay online a little while to receive those.
Thank you.